Ever get this like nagging feeling
Yeah.
that something's off about how we connect with each other these days?
Hmm. Yeah.
It's like we used to just assume good intentions, you know?
Right.
But now it feels harder to just trust. That basic sense of trust feels shaky.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. It's definitely something people are feeling.
So that's what we're diving into today. Why does it feel like we don't trust each other as much anymore?
It's a big question and complex.
It is. And to help us unpack it, we've been looking at this YouTube video by Kyla Scanlon.
Oh, yeah, why we don't trust each other anymore, right?
Exactly. And it really got us thinking. So today, think of this as a deep dive into her arguments, into all the reasons why trust might be eroding.
I like that. A deep dive.
So Scanlon starts off with this idea that, well, language itself might be part of the problem.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, she brings up Nietzsche, the philosopher.
Yeah, vaguely.
He had this question about whether language can even truly express reality.
Oh, deep.
Right. It makes you wonder, if our words are imperfect, how can we even understand each other?
It's like the foundation of communication is already shaky.
Exactly. And Scanlon builds on that, bringing in Anna Deavere Smith.
Okay, I know her, the actress.
Yeah. She said we've become kind of numb to words.
No.
Like desensitized. We're bombarded with so much information all the time. Words lose their meaning.
Oh, I totally get that. It's like you hear the same phrases over and over, and they lose their impact.
Exactly. And this ties into what Ted Goyle said, that distraction is like the fastest growing sector. We're saying everything and nothing all at once.
So basically, we're drowning in information, but not really connecting.
Right. And that lack of shared meaning, it makes trust really hard.
Absolutely. If we can't even agree on what words mean, how can we trust each other's intentions?
And Scanlon gives some really concrete examples of how this plays out, like spending on the poor. That phrase tends to get decent support.
Okay, yeah, I've seen polls like that.
But then rephrase it as welfare. Suddenly, support drops. Same idea, different words, totally different reaction.
It's like a word swap can completely change the entire conversation.
It really can. And it's not just political stuff, it's economic too. Scanlon points out that even something like living paycheck to paycheck doesn't have one clear definition.
Oh, that's true. I hadn't really thought about it that way.
Right. It could mean truly struggling or just not having tons of savings. And you see these headlines about so many Americans living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, those are always kind of alarming.
But then Scanlon points out that the median American household actually has a decent net worth and some savings.
Huh, so it's more nuanced than the headlines make it seem.
Exactly. And sometimes the source of the statistics doesn't even say how they worded their questions. So we don't even know what paycheck to paycheck means in that context.
That's frustrating. It makes you question the whole thing.
Right. And it's not just vague definitions. Scanlon also talks about how the data itself can be messed up.
Like what?
Like that weird thing with how they measure rent for the CPI.
Yeah.
It's inconsistent. Or even just typos.
Typos. Seriously.
Yeah. Remember that Lyft earnings report? They accidentally added an extra zero?
Oh, yeah. It made their profits look way higher than they were.
Exactly. So even little things like that can sow confusion, make you wonder if you can trust the information you're seeing.
So we've got this problem with language, with data. What else?
Well, Scanlon's next big point is about the media and how it contributes to distrust.
Okay, that makes sense. The media can definitely be a bit much sometimes.
It's more than that. Scanlon argues that noise is their business model. Negativity gets clicks.
Oh, yeah. Like bad news sells.
Exactly. She talks about how coverage of someone like Trump often dominates. Not necessarily because it's the most important news, but because it's attention-grabbing.
It's like the loudest voices get the most attention, even if they're not the most representative.
And we see these headlines that exaggerate things, blow them out of proportion.
I hate that. Like, one little dip in the stock market, and suddenly it's the end of the world.
Exactly. Scanlon mentions this CNBC example, a 1% drop after a huge rally, and they made it sound like a disaster. It creates this constant feeling of instability.
It's exhausting. Like, you can't even enjoy the good times without worrying about the next bad headline.
And Jared Bernstein pointed out that even when there is good news, like strong job growth, it doesn't get as much attention as it used to.
Really? That's interesting. It's like the focus is always on the negative.
And it matters because, as Will Stancil says, most of us understand the world through the media. So if that lens is always negative, it's going to shape how we see everything.
It's like wearing those glasses that make everything look gloomy. You start to believe that's how the world really is.
Exactly. And Scanlon talks about why this negativity bias might be happening. The news industry is super competitive, especially online. It's this constant battle for your attention.
I can see that. There's so much information out there. You have to be loud and outrageous to get noticed.
Right. And that creates this tension between giving people what they want, which might be negativity and confirmation bias, and telling the truth, which might be more nuanced and less exciting.
It's tough. Like, do you cater to the lowest common denominator or try to actually inform people?
Big questions. And it all feeds into this sense that maybe we can't trust the media to tell us what's really going on.
Makes sense. That they're constantly trying to grab your attention, you can't help but wonder if they're being honest.
Okay, so we've got this problem with language, with data, with the media. Now, Scanlon brings in this concept of zero-sum thinking.
Zero-sum thinking.
It's basically the belief that if someone wins, someone else has to lose. Like, resources are a fixed pie, and any gain comes at someone else's expense.
Oh, okay. Like a very competitive way of seeing the world.
Right. And Stephanie Stanchiva's research shows the younger generations are more prone to this kind of thinking.
I wonder why that is.
Scanlon suggests it might be because of the economic realities they've faced. Older generations might have experienced more economic growth and opportunity, which fosters a more positive sum outlook.
That makes sense. If you've always seen things improving, you're more likely to believe everyone can benefit. But if you've seen stagnation or decline, it's easy to fall into that zero-sum mindset.
Exactly. And it's interesting because Scanlon notes the opposite trend in developing countries. Younger generations there are often more optimistic, less zero-sum in their thinking.
Maybe because they've seen recent improvements. Things are getting better, so they're more hopeful.
It's a good point. It suggests that our economic context really shapes our beliefs about the world. And this zero-sum thinking ties into this other concept Scanlon mentions, the need for chaos.
Need for chaos. That sounds kind of intense.
It is. Derek Thompson coined the term. It describes how people who feel marginalized or left out might engage with politics and society in a very disruptive way.
Like they want to shake things up even if it doesn't lead to anything positive.
Right. It's like a way of expressing dissatisfaction, even if it's destructive. And Scanlon links this to what Marilyn Robinson said about this growing cultural cynicism.
Cynicism, like a general distrust of everything.
Yeah. Robinson suggests it's become almost a default mode, even for people who haven't necessarily experienced hardship.
It's like being skeptical is cool, even if it's not always justified.
And all of this contributes to this climate of distrust, where we're quick to question everything and assume the worst.
So we've got the language problem, the media problem, this zero-sum thinking, and now cynicism on top of it all. It's a lot.
It is. And it's all happening against this backdrop of real economic anxieties, which Scanlon argues are a major driver of distrust.
Okay, let's talk about that, because it feels like the economy is a huge source of stress for a lot of people right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Scanlon talks about how the end of those near-zero interest rates has exposed a lot of problems, especially with housing affordability and wages not keeping up with the cost of living.
Yeah, Henry Hill made that point too. It's like that era of cheap credit was masking these deeper issues.
And it creates this weird disconnect. You see positive economic indicators, but then consumer sentiment surveys are super negative.
Like people aren't feeling the good times, even if the numbers say things are improving.
Right. And Scanlon points out that the way we talk about the economy might be part of the problem. We focus on the negatives, even when there's positive data. We're bumming each other out, as she put it.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If everyone's talking about how bad things are, it's hard to feel optimistic.
And then there's this structural affordability crisis. Scanlon talks about how it's so hard to find entry-level options, whether it's cars or housing.
Yeah, even basic things are getting priced out of reach.
Exactly. She mentions that even Montgomery County, Maryland, is looking into government intervention in the housing market. It's that bad.
Wow. If even a relatively affluent place like that is struggling, it shows how widespread the problem is.
And when basic necessities are so expensive, it's hard to take risks, to start a business, relocate for a better job, even just feel secure.
It creates this constant feeling of pressure, like you're always one step away from disaster.
And then Scanlon brings in this concept of the attention economy, where our feelings and anxieties are becoming commodified.
Commodified, like they're being bought and sold.
In a way, yeah. We're constantly exposed to content designed to provoke strong emotions, fear, outrage, anxiety, because those emotions drive engagement, which makes money.
It's kind of disturbing when you think about it, like our negative feelings are being exploited.
And it feeds into this sense of distrust. because you start to wonder who's manipulating you and for what purpose.
And even the language we use reflects this anxiety. Terms like doom spinning and quiet quitting, they capture this feeling of uncertainty and burnout.
Exactly. And Rebecca Jennings talked about this pressure for hyper-optimization in the online world, this need to constantly present the perfect version of ourselves.
It's exhausting. Like, you can never just relax and be yourself. You always have to be performing.
And it can be really isolating because you're so focused on this online persona that you lose touch with real human connection.
Which brings us to the last big piece of the puzzle, the erosion of connection and the role of technology in all of this.
Right. Derek Thompson's work on the loneliness epidemic shows just how disconnected we're becoming.
And Rushkoff points out that most of human communication is nonverbal. It's body language, tone of voice, facial expressions.
And online interactions just don't capture that. We're relying on likes and retweets, which are so superficial.
It's like we're trying to build relationships with emojis and memes. It just doesn't have the same depth.
And even though we're hyper-connected online, it can make us feel more isolated because we're compartmentalizing our lives, constantly managing this influx of information.
It's like we're drowning in connections but still feeling alone.
And Scanlon worries about these new technologies like the Apple Vision Pro and Meta goggles. She thinks they could make things even worse.
Oh yeah, those virtual reality headsets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they further isolate us in our own digital worlds. Guitarper and Needleman have talked about how technology can reduce our need for conscious attention to the real world.
It's like we're outsourcing our attention to algorithms.
And attention is so important. Scanlon sees it as a measure of our humanity. When technology takes away our need to pay attention, what are we losing?
Big questions. And it ties into this whole friendship problem.
Oh yeah, Rosie Spinks and Esther Perel talked about that.
It's the idea that even maintaining friendships feels like a chore now. We have all these virtual connections, but not the deep social capital of real-world relationships.
And the scary thing is, these predictive technologies might offer a kind of assisted living for our relationships.
Assisted living.
Like they'll take care of everything for us. Remind us to call our friends, suggest gifts, even write messages for us.
Whoa, that's a bit creepy.
It is. And it can make us even less capable of navigating the complexities of human connection. We might lose the ability to build trust on our own.
It's like we're becoming robots in our own relationships.
And then there's Jonathan Haidt's observation about young men and women increasingly inhabiting separate digital spaces.
That's concerning. It's like we're creating these echo chambers where we only interact with people who are already like us.
And that just reinforces our existing biases
Yeah.
and makes it harder to understand different perspectives.
So we're losing the ability to communicate, to connect, to understand each other. It's no wonder trust is declining.
It's this perfect storm of factors. The way we use language, the media, the economy, technology, it's all contributing to this feeling of distrust.
It's overwhelming, to be honest.
It is. But Scanlon does offer some glimmers of hope. She mentions David Brooks's call for common love and collective action, and Timothy Roy's emphasis on finding real community through in-person interactions.
Those are good points. Maybe the answer is to focus on what brings us together rather than what divides us.
And Adrienne Rich talks about recognizing our interconnectedness and the fact that truth is complex and multifaceted. It's a reminder to be open to different perspectives.
I like that. It's like we need to embrace nuance and complexity rather than simplifying everything into good versus bad.
Exactly. And ultimately, Scanlon seems to be saying that we need to be more mindful of the language we use, the information we consume, the way we connect with each other.
It's a call to action, to be more intentional, more thoughtful, more human.
So to wrap up this deep dive, we've explored all these different factors that might be contributing to this decline in trust, from the erosion of shared meaning, to the negativity bias in the media, to the isolating effects of technology.
And it's important to remember that this is something you're likely experiencing too. It's not just you. It's a widespread phenomenon with real roots in our society.
So here's a final thought for you to consider. What if rebuilding trust starts with each of us? With being more mindful of the language we use, seeking out diverse perspectives, and prioritizing those real-world connections.
It's about taking back control of our attention, our conversations, our relationships.
And remembering that genuine connection and understanding are the foundation of trust. So let's start there.
And this is just the beginning of the conversation. There's so much more to explore. Keep thinking about these issues, observe how they play out in your own life, and maybe even check out some of the thinkers and ideas we mentioned today.
We'd love to hear your thoughts too. What are your experiences with trust, distrust, and connection in this crazy world? Let's keep the conversation going.
Because understanding these issues is the first step towards finding solutions.
And hopefully towards rebuilding that sense of trust that feels so essential for a healthy society.
It's a journey worth taking, together.